A couple of comments on the Fed meeting yesterday. As we know, the Fed did not raise or lower the interest rates and said they're in no hurry to do either at this time. But there was something I thought of great importance that was said. And Powell commented on the neutral rate has likely increased since the pre-pandemic level. I think it has moved up, and many of my colleagues on the FOMC think so too. Well, this is a little bit of misnomer here for Mr. Powell, since we've had Bauman and Kakashi since the 50 basis point cut have been saying that, the neutral rate is much higher than it was in the pre-pandemic. Now, they suggested here that pre-pandemic that it was considered at 2.5%. If I remember correctly, the Fed said it was 2%, okay? Now, why is this important? Because then you have to say, how much room do we have to cut? Are we being restrictive or not? So we're at 4.25. So if your neutral rate is, let's say, 3.5, then you would have 75 basis points that you could cut. So that's restrictive by 75 basis points. And you can see here, and this is from Perplexity. You're going to ask DeepSeek, anything you want. But they say that has moved up to around 3%. And up here they say approximately 2.5% before the pandemic. Again, I disagree with that. It was 2%. Now, the Bank of Canada has assessed us around 2.25 to 3.25, and Vanguard estimates that we're around a neutral rate of 3.5%. Now, Bowman and Kakashi, as they speak around at different events, they've indicated they think it's 3.5 to 4%. So make up your mind. What this is that Powell now has, I think he was literally the last holdout, because everything was we're on our way to 2% inflation. I don't think that's the case anymore. So our 10-year bond, we went down to 440 just last week. You can see it there. And again, I'm not sure this percent comment on controlling the 10-year yield. All I'll say is I've seen a couple, and both of them are new creators on TikTok talking about QE again because of percent's comments. And I thought it was very interesting that someone actually asked Powell yesterday, are they going to start QE again? But again, he gave an answer that it just doesn't make any sense. He says we would only consider QE again if interest rates were zero. Well, I looked and asked several different databases. Never has QE been started by any country whose interest rates were zero. Never. So I don't know what he's talking about. Again, I will say we have 6.7 trillion in Treasury we're going to roll. We have new debt we're adding this year, 2.5, so 9.25. That's what, Vicent has come out and said. We want to do tariffs, and we're doing them every day. Today, he says he's going to do 100% on cars from Canada. And then we're going to have the tax cuts, which they announced now as a $4.4 trillion tax cut. All right? So everybody under 400,000 gets their taxes raised. Everybody over 400,000, with the vast bulk, around 95% of them going to, well, you have to be in the billionaire class to get that 5%, okay? So that's where we're at. So I don't think that these bonds, as you know, on this channel, we believe that we're heading over 5% on this move. Finally, when we're talking about inflation here, anybody who's been following this channel for the last 3 years, you know that from day one, that has been the contention of this channel, that we're in the first phase of a 3-wave inflationary rate, okay? And I don't see anything so far, no data points that come out that says that we're not going to be having at least 3 waves. So are we getting the turn here? We're going to go a little lower, we're going to go a little higher, but right there, and this is from the Federal Reserve in St. Louis, look up in the left-hand corner there, the sticky price consumer index, less food and energy, is 3.75%. So what's the neutral rate? It can't be 3, it can't be 3.5. Neutral rate's got to be 4% or better. All right? So, what can we expect coming up? Well, there are so many geopolitical events going on, economic with the tariffs. Um, I don't see a non-inflationary environment. I don't get it, all right? Now, they seem to be pushing the theories, and their theories, that they cut spending and they drill more oil, again, according to Bassett, not me, that inflation's going to come down. I don't know. There's some kind of economic theory I never heard of. But what do you think? Like and follow, and certainly tell me in the comments.